All right. Here is my story about choosing to do a play at a conservative university, religious university, that tackles a really tough topic. The name of the play was called Boy Gets Girl by Rebecca Gilman. It is a play about sexual, it's about stalking, sexual stalking. The premise of the play is it starts off with a blind date. She is actually a sports writer for a very prominent magazine. He seemingly is everything she's looking for, but just kind of decides, he's handsome, he's smart, he's a good job, all those things. But she just basically sends him a message, said, right now my job is just really busy. Thank you very much, but I'm just not ready for a relationship at this point. That's the beginning. That's the complication, right? The action is the fact that he doesn't take no. And so you watch the unraveling of him as a human being and the level of violence of which he goes to stalk her. The end of the play, it's so violent, so threatening, life-threatening, that she ultimately has to change her name, and she's a writer. That's the worst, right? Can you imagine losing your name over it? But it was either lose her name or lose a life and move and start over again. The reason I chose to do the play was I was hearing a lot of students at the time, and I still think this, is that where I would hear things like, oh, what, Justin's waiting for me he waits for me every day after class. Every time I come out, he's always waiting to walk to me to my next class. Or he sends me, I get you out 20 texts a day from Holly. She just wants to know what I'm doing all the time and telling me how much she loves me. Anybody who is that present, to me, that's a red flag. And I wanted students to be aware of that. So we did this play. Okay, but there's a point in the play where it's turning very violent, where she is sent, I believe it's like a teddy bear and roses to her work, but the letter is horrific. It's horrific. The language is horrific. It's all these things he's going to do to her if he ever gets her alone. And to say he's going to rape her just sounds like a walk in the park compared to what's actually written and is supposed to be read out loud. So I cast this play. The young lady who won the role of the lead, oh my gosh, incredibly dear, amazing actress. But when we did our first read through and we got to that part, she's like, well, we're going to scrub this, right? Scrub means take it out, make it less than. We're not going to say these words. And I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that scene yet, Jen. We haven't got there yet. I'm going to have to think that through. And I said, but you don't think you can say those words? And she said, I don't think I can. I said, okay, well, I'm going to keep you safe. I'm going to keep the cast safe. We're not there yet. We have the process to go. I need to think this through. I need to back up. When I chose to do this play, I had gone to the academic dean and gave him the script. He was like, I told him why this play was important and why for this campus at this time, whatever. And he read through it and he went, oh, wow, okay, wow, powerful. Yes, agree with you. I'm not sure I can make that call. Well, first I gave to my area chair. She went, yeah, I'm not making that call. Then I went to the academic dean who's on the cabinet. And then he went, yeah. And then I went to the president and same thing. The president was like, Kim, I see it. I see what you're trying to do here. You're right. This is important. I think what I'm going to have you do is meet with a group of people from the cabinet and from the board of trustees. So the board of trustees at a university are a lot of people, business people and stuff that a lot of times have money and are keeping things afloat. But they're also, in this case, Roger Fredrickson, who, dear man, mid-80s, longtime minister from First Baptist. I knew who he was as a kid growing up because he had his own TV show. So I thought he was incredibly glamorous. But I kind of equated him with God. I mean, he sounded like God. He looked like what I think God would look like if God was personified. And so I had to have a meeting that Roger Fredrickson would be there. And then they also asked Dee and Gordon Stewart, again, a couple in their 80s, to come in. And there was another woman, Dorothy Johnson, who I'd never met before, and Dorothy had to be late 80s, all people that were on the board or on the board. So anyway, and then also we had the campus minister who was a female friend of mine. And then I decided I was going to have my area chair who was a female. And I kind of wanted to surround it with females because this was about the violence against women. And so I had my female cast members come to this meeting also, right? So I called Jen, so this was going to happen. And we had it all set up. And she comes into my office about half an hour before the meeting. This is the lead, and says to me, Kim, I can't say those words. I know we agreed through this process that we did not want the audience to have to assume what was on that paper, because nobody could assume the ugliness of what was being said. Nobody could assume the violence of which is being said. But I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can say it. When she walked in, I was rereading, for some reason, the preface to another play called Doubt. And this happened to be Jen, this actor's favorite play. She kept, for 2 years, she kept saying, can we do Doubt? Can we do Doubt? She wanted to do it. And the preface is, the playwright writes a preface about why we have to do hard subjects, why art is perfect for hard subjects, for society, for a culture. And I said, this is her favorite play. And I just happened to be kind of reading it, sitting there looking at it. And I said, before we go into that meeting, I want you to sit down. I want you to read the preface to this play. And she's like, she was sobbing. She was crying. She's like, I got to go home. And I'm like, all right, but when you come back, I'm not letting you in the meeting till you sit down and you read the preface to your favorite play. Once you've done that, you can come into the meeting. So these people show up. We go into the studio theater, and Jen comes. She's got herself cleaned up. She's in my office, and we're going to start. And I said, man, we can't really start till Jen gets here. And they're like, where is she? I'm like, well, I'm having to read something right now before I'm allowing her to come in here, just as a reminder. So we start in, and I basically tell them the story of what I'm told you about what this play is about, why it's important. And then I have to read out loud this page to these people. I mean, the F-bomb is in there. And at this point, the F-bomb is like PG-13 compared to the way it's used, right? I mean, it's brutal. And I have to read this out loud to these people in their 70s and 80s. And I can just see the heart, like my area chair. Look, I'm kind of looking at my area chair. She was just like, oh my God, this woman has balls. And so we get done. And Dorothy Johnson, this woman in her 70s, she asked about what we had been doing as a cast for research. Well, what we had been doing for weeks is that all the students had been working at Children's Inn. And so they had been shadowing people working with women in abusive situations. And had been involved in this world for about the last 6 weeks, and journaling it and going to, anything that these women would allow these cast members to go to. So they talked about that. The female actors that were in the room were sharing these stories, these horrific stories about these, that these women had endured and so on. And I'll never forget, Dorothy Johnson looked at Jen when she finally got in there, because I had said, listen, this is really somewhat of a hypothetical conversation, because I'm not going to make Jen do anything she's uncomfortable with, and Jen's not sure yet that she's going to be able to say these words in this scene. And Dorothy Johnson, whom I never met before, looks at her and she points at her. She says, young lady, you will say these words, and here's why. She says, these women deserve for their story and for their horror to be told. And she kind of stopped and looked at me, and she said, what is your philosophy about safety with these students? And I said, well, we can look at Christianity, which USF is. We can look at it as an umbrella to put over the top of the campus and go, okay, we're going to put this here to keep all of the secular ugliness out in the world. Or I think we can put that beautiful Christianity umbrella over the top of us and go, all right, now underneath there, in some place that's safe, we're going to talk about these hard topics as Christians, as Christians in the world. And I looked over, and Roger Fredrickson, very quiet, like I said, sounded like God, just very quiet the whole time. And he went like this, and he said, you know, the world is a messy place. The Bible is messy. And sometimes it takes messy language. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so we finished up the meeting, which was obviously going to be, you know, the support of this board. But we had all done. And we were about to leave, and everybody was still there, but we were getting up to leave. And Roger said, Kim, can I ask you, do you know a play called Doubt? And I just I froze. I looked at Jen, because that's why she was late to come into this meeting, right? Is I made her sit and read the preface to Doubt before she was allowed to come in. And I said, yes, Roger, I do know the play Doubt quite well. In fact, it's Jen's favorite play. And he said, oh, my granddaughter Sarah is an actor in New York, and she sent me this script of Doubt, and I received it yesterday. In fact, I stayed up much later than I should have last night because I couldn't stop reading it. I was just like, be kidding, you know? I still kind of tear up over this whole story. And he said, I think about that play, and I think about my granddaughter Sarah and what she's trying to do as an actor and how she's trying to use her voice. He said, but specifically, he said, have you read the preface to that play? Because I think that that's why we do art. I can't make this up. Like I said, an hour earlier, I made her sit there and read that because that's why we do art. So, yeah, that's my F it Roger story about sometimes, a lot of times, why the ugliness and like these words that we have in Bogart's book are so important for us to examine in film, in theater, sculpture, photography, you name it, why we have to have art in order to sort through our own humanity. So I'll also post the preface to Doubt on the content page so you too can read it. All right. Thanks.